Welcome everyone. Today we're going to have an interview with a project that I've not been tweeting about too much in the recent weeks. I've not been discussing it on YouTube, but still I'd like to do an interview with them. And it's about DIA. Oracles are a very important chapter in the world of cryptocurrencies and decentralized finance, and I've been tweeting about them a lot. And it's my pleasure to invite the CEO of DIA, in which we're going to discuss oracles, what they have been thinking about the markets, what they are doing to provide a solution for the oracle market as well, and why everybody should be interested in this project, and what they are going to do in the coming months. So let's head to the interview and have fun, but do not forget to subscribe beneath and also like this video. And let's go! As discussed today, I'm joined by co-founder and board member of DIA, Paul Claudius, and we're going to discuss everything surrounded by the Oracle problem and how they are going to fix it. It's a pleasure to meet you, Paul. How are you doing today?
Really well. Thanks, Michael, for having me. Super excited about that.
Yeah, it's probably a very hectic period for you as well, currently in the bull cycle. How are you experiencing that happening right now with the broad, mass adoption or just hype currently into the crypto markets?
I mean, I really don't want to be one of the people complaining about being in this bull cycle and not sleeping for days. So we're pretty excited about the space accelerating so fast because I mean, this is not just translating into asset prices being pretty favorable for people who joined in a couple of weeks or months ago, but all this capital really brings also a lot of builders and people to the space, and also new users who have different requirements on how these applications actually should look from a UX perspective. So I think it's pushing the projects, and it's for us as an Oracle provider a great time, because all these new DeFi projects being built, they require oracles, and this is obviously something where we're very happy to provide them with a core part of the infrastructure to build out these applications in a fast and secure way. And I guess that's especially the case looking at in this bull cycle, we saw how new layer ones and L2 applications are popping up here and there, I think driven by the demand and hence the high transaction fees on Ethereum. And I think we early on believed in the cross-chain ecosystem, and are quite excited on delivering our product into these different ecosystems. So to answer your question, pretty excited in this bull cycle, as this brings a lot of new projects into the market.
And massive opportunities as well. As in, it's accelerating so fast, and I can't keep up anymore. It's I get almost no sleep, as in I have to keep up. But first, let's discuss who you are in general. As in, you've been doing other stuff before you joined the blockchain space. Could you give some background on what your history is and why you have decided to join the blockchain space and especially DIA?
Yeah, love to. So I have a background in management finance, so peeked into investment banking, private equity, liked it from basically the content of the work in principle. Didn't like so much the attitude, the environment. Also realized I'm better in building up something from zero to 250 plus people than joining an organization of 10K plus. So I quite early on hence started to build companies. This led me initially to e-commerce, and I kind of stumbled by pure coincidence how I think a lot of people got into the space, like in 2013, buying my first Bitcoin, and didn't, to be quite frank, realize what I was doing, and also not understanding the much broader implications technology will have on finance for sure, but also so other parts of our economy and potentially society. So took me till 2016, 17 to spend more time on that, and at some point was just forced to leave e-commerce, which I enjoyed a lot, but it was just not as exciting as the blockchain space. And so what did I initially do with my co-founders? We were setting up basically smart contracts holding different assets, so what you would call DeFi, I guess, today, and bridging those also to the regulated space, connecting it to brokerage, as back then as partially today. The UX for a lot of people is just not great to onboard into the market. And one of the first problems we basically identified was that the absence of transparent data. We were needing that data on and off chain, so to calculate NAVs, execute rebalancing, so on a smart contract level, but also just for reporting purposes. And we couldn't find sources where we understood actually where actually does the ETH USD price derive from? So what were the exchanges? What was the methodology behind that? Scarce on, let's say, the traditional way to get it through an API and just pull that data through. I mean, there are a lot of data vendors out there, but absent to get that ingested into an Oracle and use it on chain. So this kind of drove. So I think one could say DIA is the result out of a product need we had. And we understood then, obviously, this was really integral to our product. Without transparent data, we would be in trouble on an execution level on the smart contract part, but also on a regulatory level. If you can't, like with regulated financial instrument, you can't really tell where actually the data comes from that calculates your prices. I mean, that's just not an option. So hence we did this ourselves for this particular use case, and then basically friendly projects out there ask us, hey, can't you share something very specific like the ETH euro rate, which sounds trivial, but how do you actually convert the mostly ETH with some other crypto pair traded pairs to a real euro price point? And as a lot of other stuff is denominated in US dollars, how do you convert that? So small details, but which have quite a significant impact. And we helped these projects out there, but we bootstrapped this, right? So we had some internal resource issues that we couldn't onboard new data source and so on. And we started to basically use an open source decentralized process in writing bounties for others to connect such sources. And we realized, hey, this is very efficient and it's much more transparent. And this is kind of like I guess the foundation which led us to then to put this into the right structure. Happy to expand on that later. What we believe an Oracle, as it's very integral to products, should be set up from an organizational perspective. Yeah.
It's a very interesting market in general, as in for just somebody using Binance, for instance, they see a certain price level being pushed there. So like the Ethereum is being priced at a certain USD value or a certain euro value. Could you maybe explain why it's very important to have an Oracle for people that just see that on Binance, or to have that Oracle to provide proper data, as in, or for the markets in general? Could you touch that, what an Oracle is and why it's so important?
Yeah. So an Oracle in its, I think, traditional definition is a service which provides data which is not existent on that blockchain. So why do we have Oracles? Blockchains are not able themselves to ingest data from, let's say, another blockchain from the outside world. There's a service needed which provides the data. And I mean, for an Oracle, it's important that these Oracles can ensure that they are built in a way that they'll provide that data without being the Oracle, or the group of people setting up that Oracle can manipulate that data, or let's say the incentives are very low, nor somebody else. So I think this is something important for an Oracle. But why do we have it? Because blockchain applications, and I guess the easiest example is Ethereum. There are a lot of decentralized applications. The far majority of them require an Oracle to ingest the price to execute whatever product they have. So so that's the reason for oracles being needed. Maybe to come back to your initial question and remark on, hey, there's a Binance USD price, and that's just one. It's just one price point. So Binance has order books with price points which are being executed upon on. There are other exchanges. Price points differ among these exchanges for good reasons, for bad reasons. But we take the approach that we don't judge the source where we get the pricing information from. So we are sourcing pricing information from different exchanges as well as on-chain data. And then there's all this pricing information we are getting on a trade level, really. And what do we do now for an application so we can say, hey, this is a trustworthy price? So first of all, it really depends what you need. So maybe you're building an application which just executes on-chain with certain DEXs. Maybe for this reason, you just want to include certain price points, maybe just the DEX price points. Maybe you're using very illiquid pairs, you want to have some centralized exchange price points also use just to mitigate flash loan attacks. Happy to expand on those later. So there are different requirements from applications, what price point they actually want. So we have a lot of standard methodologies we believe are covering a pretty broad range of how you would want a price point, but there are also dedicated ones. We're happy, and we have different applications where we provide tailor-made methodologies to either mitigate attack vectors or just to be very close to their actual execution price. So again, maybe a comment on, do we ensure that data is correct or not? No, because there is no right or wrong data. It's just data we're getting from certain sources. And then what we do is we're ingesting that data into our off-chain database. So this kind of sounds counterintuitive to everybody who says everything should be on-chain. It's just something you need to look at it from an efficiency point. It's just not something possible if you're aggregating a lot of data and then you're doing a compute. So what we're doing is we are cleansing this with methodologies to take out outliers or if data is completely off in a certain range over time. So there are different methodologies of how we are sanitizing that data, and it's very transparent. We're basically clearly stating how this methodology is being executed. So we get stuff at a trade level, doing a computation, and this provides then a price point. The computation we're doing off-chain, we're doing this in a way that it can't be tampered with through confidential computing. And then we're providing it either through an API, because sometimes that's a very efficient way. If you have a front end and you just want to display a price, no need of an Oracle, right? Oracles cost money to always ask the price. So either through an API, or we're providing that information on different L1s and L2s. So Ethereum, Binance Smart Chain, Polkadot, Polygon, Moonbeam, a bunch of others upcoming, probably also a couple I'm missing here, but really pushing this to different ecosystems. So for us, key is just to say data is not right or wrong how we get it, it's just a data set. And then there are ways of how you can sanitize that data to come up with something which is meaningful and right for your application. Yeah.
And thanks for that full explanation of oracles and your project as well. But for the people that are listening, there are also different oracles right now. You're not the only one. There's Chainlink, there's Band Protocol, API 3, Teller, and there are even more. In what way does DIA differ from those oracles right now? How can people see the difference between you all?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we're all trying to solve a very similar issue, and we have different approaches on how to get there. And I'm quite like happy. We are not the only one. I think this is good for the market in general to have choice, and everybody has certain advantages and disadvantages. So we're kind of advocating that this should be kind of a heterogeneous market. Also, when you look at traditional finance, if there would be just one benchmark provider, just one trusted data source, this would be horrible. So I think also in the future, we'll probably see products ingesting more than one oracle. It's just to mitigate certain risks. But coming back to how we differ and why we believe that we have the best approach on solving that issue is first on a, let's say, high level dimension. We early on believed, and I touched upon that briefly in the beginning, that oracles are integral infrastructure. As this is so relevant to a product, we believe people should have a say in the governance of such infrastructure. So we basically took the learnings. In Switzerland, the Swiss exchange is predominantly owned by the Swiss banks. Why? Because it's integral infrastructure to them. It's payment gateways, it's the exchange itself and adjacent services. So there's, like, I guess, some similarity here. So this is why we set DIA up as an association in Switzerland, which is a perfect legal framework to make voting legally meaningful. So the DIA token as a governance token gives the token holders the ability to influence actually where this product is being built out to and on relevant governmental decisions. So that's just, I think, a fundamental belief where we differ. Second is the way how we're set up as an organization. We started DIA and I think this is a continuing journey as a DAO. So you're not a DAO just by saying you're a DAO. So I think this is a gradual process to be a DAO from day one. It has a lot of, there's a trade-off of centralized decisions, like the benevolent dictator who can, like, looking at Singapore, you see that, like, on a governance level, if somebody can decide stuff, things can go very fast. So I think there's a trade-off of how much democracy you want at what point in time. So initially, obviously, we took a lot of general decisions ourselves, but we set this up in a structure that token holders have a say in that infrastructure, and this also applies to the product. So we set this up in order to crowdsource and crowd validate data. So we're using bounties to add new scrapers, to add new data sources. This makes us just much more scalable. And we see this also, this works with methodologies and other adjacent products. So it's, when I explain this to my mother, for example, it's basically a Wikipedia approach in solving the issue, instead of the Encyclopedia Britannica, which has 50 brilliant people sitting in a room and writing articles. Who will never beat the crowd. So this is just a fundamental difference of how we're organizing this, and we're on a journey of decentralizing really the different departments and roles. But product already is working that way. So this is basically on more high level basis. On an infrastructure level, I think we early on believed also what's an efficient way of solving the issue. So as I said, we're collecting the data, on-chain, off-chain data, pushing it to an off-chain database where we can actually have that computation. And that's quite an efficient way of deriving at whatever you call right data, or at least something which has been derived after a certain methodology. We're doing this off-chain, so the best way to have this efficient computation. So this is something we did from the beginning on an order level to get that data. We see that others are are finding that approach interesting and are maybe inspired by certain elements here. And then we're distributing that data on chain. And here also there's a lot of, I think, a lot of focus on this, so to say, last mile of the Oracle. So how decentralized is the node structure? We haven't seen in the past that nodes were tempered and led to a flash loan attack. So this was not really the issue. We see a high trade-off of the level of decentralization regarding node consensus on providing data and the efficiency. So if you have a bunch of nodes validating one data point just to have an on-chain consensus on that data point, that's pretty inefficient. And we believe there's a much higher risk actually to just ingest data every 4 hours into a product, which like for a lot of dApps is the case. Like they're just updating their Ethereum price every 4 hours. So we believe there are other ways of providing more accurate and trustworthy data on that regard. And then there are a couple of I think pretty exciting updates coming up in the next weeks, which will, I guess, further differentiate our product to competition. Happy to, maybe we can do like a 5 minutes catch up on that.
I mean, just go ahead if you want to. I'm listening.
I'd love to. Can't disclose it right now yet.
One of the questions that I had, I've got many questions right now after what you said, but one of the questions that I had was, you're solely focused on the DeFi markets right now, or mostly, like oracles are fixated on that, but there are so many different niches and segments that also need an oracle. So are you looking to go broader in that sense, or is DeFi currently the primary focus of the project?
So I think DeFi is by far the fastest growing market segment. Yeah. But it is, when you compare it to, let's say, traditional regulated finance, obviously like a fraction. So I think we're very well positioned in this high growth market, where also it doesn't, like, oracles are usually, it's a default. It's not a question, is this better or not? You need one. So it's quite a good market for us to be in. So hence a lot of focus and hence a lot of efforts also in the past months to have our oracles accessible on all these new fast growing L1s and L2s. But early on already, and that's possibly also background from a bit from the team, also coming from traditional finance, we were providing data also to regulated custodians, something fairly trivial. They need end of day prices, but they prefer to have that from a third source, because the monetization model also depends on the asset under management value they're actually custodizing. So I think it's just a question of time until the regulator will also ask them not themselves to provide it, but ask trustworthy third-party source. But you were saying, aren't there a lot of other use cases for oracles? 100%. It's surprising that traditional regulated finance is so lax regarding the integrity of databases which are hosting data, which can be the foundation for products which are worth billions of dollars. So the way we designed our infrastructure, which creates an immutable audit trail on that data, is something we believe, and we're also educating here a bit, is something we believe at some point will become just requested by the regulator. I think there's just traditional finance and partially regulators are not aware that actually there is this ability of creating immutable audit trails of financial data which can't be tampered by anyone. So yes, I see a much broader application on our product infrastructure. And anyways, I'm a firm believer that today, as we differentiating between DeFi and centralized finance, this will merge eventually anyways. We see this with innovative companies where you could argue, is Coinbase is a traditional finance provider? Is it a DeFi house? As they also have a wallet, so everything will somehow merge. So yes, I see a much broader use case for our data. We already are in that field, but we're not. But we're very much focused on the DeFi, especially in this bull run, to be everywhere where we're needed.
Yeah, well, you touched the word Coinbase, and I can't hear it anymore after the past weeks and days. But it's an interesting concept, as in, if we discuss oracles, we also have centralized oracles in the traditional markets, and you said it's mostly going to merge together, as in that's the future, right? Where we are currently living in, or maybe that's what's happening in the coming years. How are you going to bring that bridge or build that bridge to the traditional finance, as in focusing on DeFi is the new finance, as in that's what we're currently working on. But how are you going to build that bridge to the traditional financial markets? And do you see any threat of all those centralized oracles that are already existing?
So I think what's a good gateway for us, the increasing interest in TradFi for crypto assets. So this is data they usually don't have in-house, and they're looking at solutions who can provide that. And here we are, I'd say, pretty visible. And that's just the use case of ingesting crypto data, but it's a good door opener, so to say, which leads then to conversations highlighting actually the benefits of our infrastructure against traditional data vendors they have integrated. And that's for one, and that's pretty specific to DIA, our ability through this crowdsourcing approach to be very broad in data sets that are needed, also very illiquid, often like unusual stuff. You just need the methodology and agree on it, and then you have a data point. But also on the aspect of the immutability on the database, so we can actually ensure that this data hasn't been tampered. This is also something very meaningful if you're issuing a financial product and you can actually point to the reference rate, that this reference rate is just by design not being able to you can't tamper it, you can't change it. Yeah.
You've touched the point of false data, as in how can we say that it's false data, or can an oracle say so? That cannot be tampered on the blockchain. But how are you going to make the oracle more efficient, as in who are you to say that some data is false or right? And if you're not able to say that, there's still the ability that a certain data provider is so far away from the rest of the reference points so that they will be kicked out at some point, right? So how are you going to make that more efficient as an oracle provider?
I think regarding the efficiency, to do exactly this task off-chain, but in a way that it can't be tampered through confidential computing. So basically, what we're executing in doing averaging, outlier cleaning, is basically executed through an environment which can't be hacked. And we've been working with IBM on exactly doing that. How can we claim that data is right and not wrong? Again, no one is able to claim that the data source was right. And what's right or wrong? Is wash trading right or wrong? Does it still reflect trades or not? Should it reflect the price, as it still impacts the price that has actually been executed? So I think there's no clear answer. So we believe you need to pull that data and get ideally a lot of data. So through methodologies, you're able to derive something meaningful, which is portraying in the best possible way what either the entire market or sub-segment price you want to report. And here, by doing this off-chain, this is very efficient by having a lot of data sources at a very granular level. I think we're deriving at very precise price points, and by being extremely transparent, so where you can actually see, okay, hey, this is actually how this is being done. So I understand how the methodology. We're just not saying this is the best US dollar Bitcoin price, but we're saying no, this is the Bitcoin price, and this is how we actually derived at that. And then, creating an immutable audit trail of the underlying data and the computation. I think we provide a very, I think it was pretty unique in the market, the way how we approach that. Yeah.
Well, in the end, it's also just outliers, and the more data you have, the more efficient it will become. Flipping back to DI in itself, recently you've started a vote for the staking program, as far as I've seen passing by. Could you maybe elaborate on the idea behind staking and why it should be beneficial for DI in itself?
Yes, so I think everybody has contrary thoughts on staking, as long as staking is not part of a proof of stake, but it's basically an interest program. And for this reason, and I think this is exactly why we believe so much in DAO structures. I mean, we can discuss this internally and having internal voting, but in the end, it should be the token holders who should decide on the benefits and disadvantages of staking, because it's inflation in one way, looking at the circulating supply, but it's also reward for the people who are right now holding, staking, and locking for a certain amount of time, producing supply. So again, also with a DAO, you need to scale I guess the level of how decentralized you want to do this. Similar, we're doing this now with different token economic decisions, in asking the community, do you want that or not? Then the question is, do you want to do this completely in a decentralized manner? So this is locked in a smart contract, or are gateways preferred to be used, such as Binance? Again, here, I think there are different opinions, what is better or not. It has to be fair, advantages and disadvantages. I mean, you're saving on gas fees. So why do I like this aspect? Because not only if you have 10K dias, this makes sense to stake with having costs of I don't know, $50 for the transaction cost, but also if you bought for $50 dia at Binance, you can this can still make obviously this makes then more sense from an economic perspective for you, but then it's not decentralized. So again, here something where we believe we shouldn't be the ones deciding, and we might be biased just from our backgrounds, or so it's something token holders should be voting for. Yeah.
But if you go that far into decentralization by using the DAO structure, aren't you afraid of the fact that if there are 3 big token holders and they are against everything that you are putting up there for a vote, and they are just going to backfire what you want to improve in the project? As in, that's full democracy and full decentralization, but it can also backfire you.
Absolutely. And I mean, we look at different designs of having voting by wallet, having some caps, but when you look at, I mean, there's some economic interest, I guess, so probably nobody would split up 1 million tokens on 1 million wallets, because it would require certain gas costs, unless he would be willing to push for a certain vote. So there's a trade-off in how much do you want to actually represent as many different opinions as possible, while also reflecting possible the engagement meaningfulness, because there is, to be fair, I guess, some relation between how much deer you're holding or not. So if you are among the top 50 holders, you have a strong interest that you're taking the right decisions on the project to appreciate, also have a price appreciation in the long term. But yes, there is obviously some risk if you're asking now for a vote. Shall every token holder get 10 tokens extra? A lot of people will probably say, okay, that's great. Yes, let's vote for it. And hence it needs. So this is why we're building this up. It needs an engaged community on such DAO votings. If you just have 15 people being able to influence votings, there's a danger. So I think there needs to be a certain level of broad engagement in relation to the value of decisions they can actually impact. So if we would now have voting on the treasury, on the entire treasury, make it completely open, there are certain attack vectors, and people could game this. And I think looking at a lot of projects such as Synthetics or ARF or Compound, which have a pretty long history in governance processes, you see that they often use committees in order to basically ensure that the requests and the votings can be somehow double checked, because I mean there are a lot of smart people out there, and everybody tries to potentially game different incentive structures where there's a high reward. And hence, from these learnings, we're getting a similar approach in taking gradual steps and decentralizing this, and at the same time building up the community who understands well our infrastructure, our goals, and wants to drive the roadmap with us.
And in the end, it's also just plain and simple game theory, as in short-term time preference or long-term time preference. Do people prefer staking, or are they in there for the fundamentals? That's all the debate that you have with this system as well. So it's very interesting to see. Let's discuss the future. I've seen a tweet where you initially posted a new partnership, or you were working with Curve Finance on Polygon. That's the most recent tweet that's been posted out there. You've also touched that there's some stuff coming up for DIA in the coming weeks. What can we expect, and what is down the roadmap for DIA in the coming period?
Yeah, I think the last tweet you mentioned is a good example for something we have been very much focusing in the past months, and this is our ability to provide our very broad set of data points to all the fast-growing and relevant L1s and L2s. And Polygon, apart from BSC, Moonbeam, Polkadot is one of them, and it's really exciting. We're seeing that in these ecosystems, I think the new blue chips we're going to see in 1 to 2 years are being built, and for us, hence, it's pretty exciting to provide in these ecosystems, I'd say, the broadest sets on data, which can be easily ingested. So something which we have been working for quite some time. We're happy now to see how this is really accelerating this cross-chain growth and new ecosystems kickstarting with tremendous traction. Yeah. What else is coming up? So I think in the next weeks we'll see some really cool, we'll be able to share some really cool new product updates, which are quite unique to how DIA is tackling the transparency on where actually data comes from, and where and who is using it, and ensuring that rights are being met, because this is something which is completely I think neglected for now. Everybody's just like pushing data here and there, but nobody knows where it actually comes from, where you
Mm-hmm.
actually, was it okay actually to ingest that data or not, and where was it being used? I think we'll share something here, which I think tackles this issue in a very decentralized open source matter, and I think this will be quite meaningful to the project.
Well, I'm more than interested, as probably the people who are listening also know that I am a big holder of DIA. So
Happy to hear so.
I'm more than interested to see that coming up. Final question that I have regarding the markets is what you have been saying about the cross-chain ecosystem that we're building right now. How do you see that maybe differ if Ethereum is going to integrate those upgrades? I think it's the plain and simple question, but are we going back to Ethereum alone, or are we currently going towards that cross-chain ecosystem where Ethereum might be just one of the big players integrating with Polkadot and all those other ones? How do you see the future of DeFi in that perspective?
Yeah, I think it's a very good question. It's essential to
nobody
to
knows,
because
but
we kind of value fragmentation because us collecting and ingesting onto so many different layers is so the complexity is kind of good for our business model. I very much believe that even with Ethereum 2.0, we will still see a strong fragmentation. We'll see also solutions to make Ethereum scalability solutions, looking at, for example, ZK Zinc, other mechanisms which will make just transaction costs cheaper, because also even with Ethereum 2.0, when we look at how fast we're scaling, also I think at that point in time, also new scaling solutions will be needed just to cover the amount of transactions and these multiple use cases. Looking also at NFTs now, something also we're very much we're very bullish on. I mean, who's not, right? But
Peter Schiff,
very
probably
fragmented. It will require also a lot of transactions. So I'm a firm believer that also with Ethereum being more efficient in the future with proof of stake, still we'll see different L1s for different use cases, all interconnected. So yes,
I think it's going to be beautiful in the coming years, and I hope it will. Finally, I'd like to ask you a personal question, which I always do in those interviews. If you are 40 years older than now, what is going to make you a happy person? What's your purpose in life? As in that's really what I want to achieve.
Yeah. It's not happening in the not so distant future. But I mean, I'm like every morning I wake up usually a bit tired.
Same.
I'm waking up and I'm so excited on the day, because like literally every day the entire ecosystem is evolving. I think we're building. I'm super thankful to be part of a project where we are building some foundation for others to build on top of it, and I'm like so excited to see what applications are actually being built on top there, and at the same time very knowledgeable that I guess in a couple of years time we'll kind of like look back at this with a bit of a smile, like I guess like in the 90s web van stuff, or like when the internet like kind of kicked off and everything was super clunky. So I'm just really happy to be part of this, I think, next huge technology shift, and working on the foundations and ideally impacting the way how we are providing infrastructure in an open source way, in a way that it's pretty free and easily accessible, and be part of that. So I think with that, I'm pretty happy when I'm 40, and hopefully also sticking to it after reaching that goal. But having provided a bit of this growing ecosystem makes me quite happy and makes me get up even when I'm tired.
Well, that's great. Finally, where can we find you and Dia if we want to have more information about the project? If somebody is listening, what are the links? Definitely they will be posted in the description below. But if you would like to share something else or maybe end off with a personal touch, just go ahead.
Yeah. So you can best to join us is in our Telegram group. This is where all your questions will be answered. If you just want to reach out, get in touch with the community. There are a bunch of Gitcoin bounties if you're a bit more on the product tech side, with a pretty easily accessible documentation. At least we hope to think so. If not, do let us know. So as we are moving into being a true DAO, and contributors are key of the product. It's a clear reach out trying to do here. Please become one of those contributors. It will make Dia stronger, and hopefully it will deliver good return for you. So ping us on Telegram anytime. This is also where you can also just get in touch with us. So also here, my handle at Paul Claudius. Just ping me. Join us on Twitter to follow the latest updates. So yeah, it's an open project, and contributors are part of what make it work.
Well, thank you very much. It has been a great interview. I'm personally also looking forward to what you're all going to build and going to do, as I'm just one of the holders of Dia as well. Once again, thank you very much. Good luck on the journey that you're currently living and building. And I guess we'll stay in touch. So have a wonderful day, Paul.
Thanks so much, Michael. It was a true pleasure, and we're super lucky and humbled to have you as one of the holders and contributors in helping us spread the word. So highly appreciated. Thanks for taking the time.